Today's bandwidth sponsor is Patreon. Please visit changeyourpov.com/support us to learn more about how you can get exclusive content from Change Your POV Podcast Network, including monthly and annual reports showing you our download numbers and most downloaded episodes. We also share with you special deals and events that we are supporting or holding ourselves, unique behind-the-scenes content, and much more. We even have a super secret podcast available only to those in the $10 or more a month pledge level. That's changeyourpov.com/support us. Welcome to Change Your POV Podcast Network. I am your host, Eddie Lazary.
And I'm Bennett Tanton. Change Your POV podcast and all its shows within its network are all working together to bring the best coaches, entrepreneurs, business leaders, and mentors in the industry to teach you guys how to crush it in life, love, wellness, and your transitions both at home and at work.
Imagine having a mix of experienced mentors teaching you their expertise, packing decades of research, experience, education, testing, and tough lessons into a concise curriculum. We've created one of the premier veteran transitional podcasts available anywhere, and it's free. Now, this is the show we wished we had over a decade ago.
Now, this show is about you, and we're here to help you become just as successful out of uniform as you were when you were in every area of your life. Make sure you stay up to date with everything going on here and get some free giveaways, ebooks, downloads, and exercises that will help you become more prepared in your post-military life by signing up for our newsletter at changeyourpov.com.
And if you're new to the show but want to learn more about us and what we're teaching here at the Change Your POV Podcast Network, then you can head on over to changeyourpov.com/about us. Folks, welcome to this shit show of a interview so far. We started this thing off well, and then we realized, oh wait, the link that we had started on was deleted. For those of you that may not know, I'm Eddie Lazary, and Bennett on the far left there is my co-host on Change Your POV Podcast Network, and of course the fine-looking gentleman there in the middle is no stranger to this group. At least he shouldn't be. Justin Bailey, welcome to, well, I would say we're welcomed on your Code of So for the listeners out there, the podcast listeners out there, we're doing a live broadcast on Facebook Live in the Code of Character Facebook group. And so they get an opportunity to meet us. And we're doing this live podcast episode recording. And so now the listeners of Change Your POV are going to have the opportunity to meet Justin. So how is everybody doing? And welcome to these festivities.
Is this my turn to speak?
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Jump in whenever.
Hey, I want to say thanks for having me, guys. I know Nick connected us a couple weeks ago. Nick is he's a mainstay in our group, so I appreciate that. I know you're on right now. Thanks for having me on. I guess way straight in. I should go.
Yeah, he's a nut
We've had nothing but problems.
Yeah.
So you guys want to tell the group? You want to tell the group just real quick about who you guys are and what you do, so they know the angle you guys are coming from, the veteran angle at least.
Yeah, man. So for those of you that are watching this, I'm playing around with the screens here trying to figure this shit out. But I'm going to take the names off of here. I think we've figured out who is who. Let me do that really quick so we can see a little bit more of the screen. Go ahead, Bennett. Kick us off, man. Who are we?
All right, so Eddie and Bennett, we are the Change Your POV Podcast Network. We are the co-founders of said network, and we are a network of, what are we at, 5 shows now?
5, yeah.
5 shows, 5 hosts right now, but Eddie and I do shows together, and then we've got Jeff Adamek, who does Changing Hearts and Minds. He is a retired special forces operator, so He does a show on with the SF community and also on history and things like that. Then we have Wednesdays, we have Dwayne France, who is a licensed professional clinical something or other health, counselor, licensed. Jesus, I'm a fucking mess. But anyway, so he's a mental health professional, veteran, retired Army, and does a show called Headspace and Timing. Then our flagship show right now is Attack Friday, which is Eddie and I. Once in a while, we do a show called Behind the Curtain, which is kind of a peek behind the curtain of our lives and what we do in our time off. And then Sunday is Remove Before Flight with Kevin Fairbanks, who is a Chair Force veteran extraordinaire. We love him to death, but you have to have your token Air Force guy. That's right. So we haven't found a Coast Guard guy yet, but we did find a civilian, and that'll come on. That'll be coming on later. So we'll have some more shows. But basically we focus on veteran transition and everything that has to do with veterans, health, wellness, and whatnot, and basically focus on making them as successful after service as they were when they were in. That's our main focus, and that's what we love to do. So
yeah, man. Very cool. So for those of you that are tuning in right now, welcome. Glad that you're here tuning in. If you could, there should be a button at the bottom of the screen, whether you're watching it on your computer or on your phone, that'll say share. Go ahead and share this and find at least 5 people that you think would benefit from this conversation we're about to have and get them onto this discussion. And by all means, leave your comments. We'll try to answer them along the way. We'll kind of do an impromptu Q&A session along the way. I think it would be really cool. Before we get into any really meat or any conversations regarding Code of Character, I do want to just so all right. So earlier I was putting this together, and I, like I do with all of the guests of Change Your POV, I go out and I try to find pictures of them so I can use them in the show artwork. And so I went to Google, right? I went to Google and I typed in Justin Bailey, and I just wanted to see what I would get for returns, you know, all different kinds of pictures of good old Justin Bailey. And folks, I'm about to show you some pictures here. Now, if you're listening to the show on the podcast, you're not going to be able. I'll put these pictures in the show notes page so you can also get the full benefit of this. But so the first thing that I
have no idea what he's going to show, just so everyone knows. I don't have a clue.
Plausible deniability.
So, hold on here for a second.
Allegedly, it's him too.
Yeah. So Bennett, I'm going to remove Justin for a moment, and I'm going to bring these on here. Ready? So this is the first picture that I noticed. Oh crap, where did it go? Hold on. Oh, there it is.
Oh,
I feel like I'm on a reality show right now.
It's because you are, baby.
Oh, here we go. Hold on. Okay, I don't
ever want to see that.
I just put Justin in timeout. He's now in the lobby, so he can't say anything.
He's in the green room.
He's in the green room. It's because there we go. So I gotta bring. Hold on, I'm actually going to. I'm gonna kick you in the lobby too, Bennett, for a minute, so we can see this bigger screen here. There we go. So I'm looking around for pictures of Justin Bailey, and this is one of the very, whoever this guy is. He's a hockey player, obviously. It plays for was it the Buffalo Sabres or something? I'm not much of a hockey guy, but I'm guessing this might not be Justin Bailey. However, there was a bunch of other pictures that I'm thinking could be, in fact, Justin Bailey, and there you go. And so I've got 2 choices here. It's either the hockey player or it's this, I don't know what the hell this is. It's some futuristic star woman wearing a pink leotard with like teal green hair shooting some crazy weapon system out of her wrist. I don't understand what this is, but you take your pick. Which one is Justin Bailey? I will let that decision be yours. So if you are tuning in and you're watching this live, go ahead and vote for who you think is the real Justin Bailey. Is it option A there, or option B? A being the hockey player, B being the pink leotard and we'll let the audience decide. Okay, let me get those pictures out of here, and then we'll bring Bennett and Justin back into the party here. Working my magical skills here. Yes, there we go. Okay, so welcome back, gentlemen. So, do you guys have?
I really like the cosplay. I really like the cosplay chick way better.
Yeah. So, all right.
She's way hotter.
I'm equally as bad at figure skating or at ice skating as I am at shooting lasers out of my hand. So I don't know which way it would go.
All right. Well, we will let the audience decide. They're coming in.
The funny part is when you put that in to Google, his name, that's what pops up.
That's right. That's what pops up. I'm not making this up, am I? Did you do it, Bennett?
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
Same thing.
So that's what we were talking about, SEO, search engine optimization. Apparently, sir, you're not optimized for your name. Well, let's just say it is optimized, but it's optimized for these two jokers, whoever the hell they are.
So code of character is kind of like the Delta Force of movements going on right now. So we're kind of under the radar. Google's working with us, helping us out. So
very cool.
That's where we're at.
So let's talk about code of character. Where did it come from, man? How did it get started?
So it got started sometime maybe almost a year and a half ago now, when I just kind of I kind of known that I was supposed to be doing something for quite a while, and I just had that itch, and I didn't really know what to do with it. So I started this journey of being a better. Really started with trying to be a dad. Let me go back to like 2013 or so. I had this itch where my sons were getting a little older, and they were getting to the point where it wasn't just like changing diapers and watching them do cool stuff and grow a little bit. I have to start teaching them stuff, and I feel extremely underprepared to do this. And so I went on to deployment with my National Guard unit, and I was kind of wrestling with some of this stuff, and I got involved with a group of guys who, they were kind of dealing with some of the similar issues, all the issues that guys deal with of self-doubt and self-discovery, as far as kind of some of it was spiritual. Some of the guys were church guys that I hung out with, but just kind of figuring out, how do we make it in this world? Who do we want to be, and that kind of stuff. So I came back from there very different internally. And so you wouldn't have seen it externally, but it was all kind of internal stuff. And so time went by, fast forward to last year at the beginning of 2016, I kind of clarified this message of character. And I said, I gotta start sharing this message of character. And what it meant to me was that we do the things that we say we believe in. So our actions match our values. And what I found in my life and over a decade of leading people in the military, every time somebody did something wrong, and whether it was legally or morally or somewhere in between, they knew the right answer, including myself. We know the right answers. We're just not doing the right things. And so I'm like, why is this? And I don't really know fully. I have a blueprint for how I believe we can combat this, which is the code of character. But so I started writing. I was like, I gotta just get this message out. So at the time I was like, oh, I guess I'll just start writing on the internet, and I'll just start going and I'll craft a talk. I'll go start talking to people, and and it'll just kind of take off, and I'll just spend all my free time talking to people about character. So I started writing on a blog, and nobody read it. And I called 2 youth organizations, and I said, hey, I want to talk to you guys about character. I got this kind of thing going on. I think it would be really cool. This is a free situation. These were definitely places I thought would be begging for people to come in and talk to these kids. And I got crickets. And so I got no traction there. Kind of spun my wheels with the blog thing for a little while. And then I'm like, okay, writing takes too long. I don't have enough time. I got a full-time job. I got a part-time job. I got 3 kids now. At the time I had 2 kids. I'm trying to do some different things, and writing takes a long time. You got to have a lot of time on your hands. And so I wasn't putting out the content regularly, and I wasn't committed to it. So sometime last fall, I kind of came up with, I actually stumbled upon Order Man. I know you guys are both familiar with that. Yep. And the work they're doing and the traction they've gotten from that Facebook group. And so linked up with Ryan Mickler and saw he's really using this Facebook group to spread a message. And so I thought, hey, maybe I can do the same thing. So I actually got some training from him and kind of started doing the same thing late last year and started the Facebook group early this year. And it's kind of taken off and some guys have resonated with it. I've met a lot of awesome people. I just started the podcast and just trying to get this message out there that we can make a positive force in this world. And all the stuff that you see that, there's a lot of stuff out there that's anti-man nowadays. And I don't know if it's always been there. I don't know if guys have always been as bad as we are, or they were better at one time. I don't have a clue and I don't care, but I do feel that the only thing that we can do to combat a lot of this sentiment is to stand tall and to build each other up and to live with honor, to live with integrity. And, when we stumble, to admit it, come out, make amends, and hold each other up as a brotherhood. So that's where I'm coming from in a nutshell.
Yeah, man. And I know the code of character is really focused around men. As a matter of fact, it's kind of like a men's only club. And a lot of people think that that's like, why, character is for men and for women. Like, why are you singling out just the men? Like, what would you say to people that think that, we live now in a society where everything's got to be fair and equal and balanced, and, there's got to be safe places, and you can't speak your mind, but at the same time, you got to speak your mind, otherwise you're not yourself, and individuality is very important, but by God, you can't really single anybody out. So one question is, why men? And two, why not include women in the equation?
So I have three main reasons. The first one is that honestly, I think that men cause more havoc in the world than women. That's actually the second reason, but they're both equally important. I just believe that men generally are screwing things up in the world more, and they probably have since the beginning of time. And I don't know all the reasons for that. There's probably some scientific reasons that might just kind of how things have happened and how we're built, that kind of stuff. That's just my opinion. So a lot of the physical violence and the havoc and stuff, there's guys out there doing a lot of that stuff. But the big thing is that I feel very unqualified speaking to women, because my experience in this genre and my reason for even having this conversation is because I went through some struggles myself, and I've lived this life as a man. And that's all I have really bringing to the table is my experience, the things that I've found that didn't work, and the things that I found that did work. And the third reason which just works for the Facebook group and for a lot of these talks, is really because guys are going to open up much more when there are when they're other guys. So you bring a level of intimacy, you bring a level of integrity to the conversation, and things kind of come out. And we really do create, I know safe space is always kind of used as a mocking term because of some of the insanity that's going on in college campuses and stuff around here. But it really becomes a safe space where guys can come in there. They can kind of lay, if they're comfortable. Some guys are comfortable laying out problems in a Facebook group that they're not, in their own family. Mm-hmm. And so they'll come in there, and, we've got 3,000 guys there now. So it's not me helping these guys. It's a collective 3,000 guys with 3,000 experiences. We've got people that are professionals in all walks of life. We got people that have recovered from different addictions, and people that have been broke, and people that have been rich, and all these kinds of things that I haven't experienced myself. So it really is a collective community.
So you hear things like, and I do too, but I think all men often hear things like, men aren't in touch with their feelings. Men aren't sensitive, or don't show their sensitive side. Men are afraid to expose emotion. Are those all stereotypes? Are they true? Are they not true? What do we know about this in the men in this group?
I can mostly speak for myself here, and I will say that it's a stereotype for sure, but I definitely think there's some truth to that. And I think a lot of that is cultural, and I think it probably changes from culture to culture and society to society. I think that myself growing up, I don't show a lot of emotion. Sometimes that's because it doesn't externally come out. And sometimes it's because I don't feel like I should, because I do have that man up. I've kind of adopted that as I've grown, and I don't always think that's a bad thing. But I also, on the flip side of that, for a lot of my life, I've been controlled by my emotions. Mm-hmm. So even though you didn't see it on the outside, it welled up inside of me, and it controlled my actions. And so that's where it gets really dangerous. I don't think whether you're outwardly or not showing your emotions is so much the problem. I do think that there's probably some stigma that we can remove. And I think there's a lot of guys out there doing that right now is removing some stigma from, the whole guys don't cry kind of thing. I mean, when you go through some serious problems and some serious hurt and some serious damage in your life, you got to have emotion. You got to have tears. You got to have that mourning period. You really do, because if you don't, it's going to further exacerbate down the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
But the bigger problem, I think, is if we are not understanding our emotions and we're not allowing those emotions to inform us and to reason with those emotions and to make solid decisions based outside of those emotions, that's where we really get in trouble. You start seeing lives ruined. You start seeing relationships damaged, because we're acting out on our emotions.
Yeah, Bennett, and especially with you and the work that you do, what's been your take on it?
On mine?
Yeah.
Well, you kind of know, you and I have talked about this extensively, but when it comes to especially men expressing emotions, part of the problem is they don't know how. They've never been taught to. They've never been. They might have feelings, but they've been trained to bottle them up, and then what happens is they end up blowing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this from experience. This was me the first probably 30 years of my life, cost me a marriage and all kinds of other shit because I was expressing my feelings like a little petulant child, frankly. And that happens a lot nowadays because a lot of homes are fractured. Men are raised by women, and of course they do their best to raise men. My mom did what she could to raise me as good, but I didn't really have a father figure. And frankly, I didn't know how to express my feelings other than as like a little boy to my mom, even into my adulthood. So once I learned how to express my feelings and it's what it comes down to is being able to communicate your feelings, not having to discuss them and having to defend them, and just being concise and clear enough in your feelings to be able to communicate them is a huge hurdle to overcome for most men. And how you do that is, frankly, you get mentorship from men that know how to do that. Because men need other men, just like veterans. We need other veterans. It's the same concept. Men need other men that they can trust. And I'm not talking about men that you go out and drink with and watch sports with and drink chicken wings and BS with. I'm talking about real trusting relationships, like husband or, son, father, or it could just be a mentor or somebody. Basically, men need people to call them on their shit. And, people that are good husbands and fathers and that are just good providers and things like that, because it's like trying to take money advice from a broke dude or take weight loss advice from somebody that's fat. I mean, you might have the knowledge, but if that person can't institute it, what kind of, and trust me, I'm guilty. Guilty as charged. But as soon as I found other men that I could emulate and be mentored by, life got a lot easier. And relationships are so much better now because of that. And a lot of times men shun other men, especially men that'll be like, dude, you're kind of not being a cool guy. Like you're lying, you're cheating, you're just not being honest with yourself. You're yelling at your kids. You're yelling at your wife. You're not being the rock. You're not providing security for your family. You're not running the romance department in your relationships. You know what I mean? Women want to be romanced even after marriage. I mean, shit. How long have you been married, Eddie?
20 years.
20 years. I've been married almost 15. And I don't know about you, Justin, but
16, brother.
Yeah. So if you don't run the romance side of your life, come on, women want you to, you know what I mean? So you just kind of have to take it and be the man in that relationship. It's way deeper than what we're talking or we have time to talk about. But those are just a couple little wave top type things that I see.
To piggyback on I agree with you spot on, Bennett. To piggyback on that, part of that process has to be to get to the point where those guys are comfortable with you. You've got to align yourself with guys, and that takes a lot of time. You got to align yourself with guys that are be willing to take that journey with you, which is an awesome thing about Facebook and the internet, because there's just, you got to find those guys. It's tough to do. You can't just go down to the store and start walking around and be like, hey, who wants to talk about feelings with me? We'll watch the game, but later let's talk about if I romance my wife or not. That's tough. That's hard to do.
Yeah, it is. But the one key is, again, and this is what everything in life comes down to, is executing. And that's actually having the gall and the balls to go out there and find it. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, and you have to open yourself up to it. And if you don't open yourself up to it, it's never going to be there. So you have to have the courage to put yourself out there first at a minimum. And you know what? There's guys out there waiting with open arms to help and mentor you through that shit, period.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. It takes, like you said, you said it perfectly, Bennett. It's about courage. And the question is, courage to do what? Well, it's difficult to open yourself up to the level of vulnerability that's necessary to allow change to really happen in your life. And that's scary. But
it's so freeing.
It is.
Oh my God.
It's a scary place to be. And because
it is scary.
You have to be able to feel comfortable enough with somebody to open up like the deepest, darkest wounds that you have, and trust that person to have complete, not sympathy, but empathy and non-judgment, right? That's really what it's about, empathy and non-judgment. And we were just talking about this today, Bennett, and I'm going to ask Justin, or I'm going to pose it to Justin here. And we were talking about the necessity to have a male bond or friendship with somebody to the degree that you have to be so honest in a relationship, even at the expense of the relationship itself. And to wrap your head around that, let me say it again.
Well, you have to have men that will risk their relationship with you in order to be honest.
There you go. That's right. And that's
what we were saying.
That's the definition of the ultimate true friendship is, I know that Bennett, like out of everybody else in my life, I would have to say Bennett's probably the one person that I know that I could be honest with, and he can be honest with me at the risk of even our own friendship. And that's a scary place to be, but that's the place that real honest change and character can really happen. What's your take there, Justin?
I thought that was I was about to do a slow clap show ender. I don't know what else you say to that. Like, no, you guys are spot on, and you guys are both entirely blessed to have that. I know you guys don't even live close to each other, so you found each other via the interwebs, and that's just really cool. Most guys don't have that, right? You guys would agree.
Yeah,
for sure.
And so that is just really, really cool, and it's absolutely necessary. And a big part of that has to be, you've got to have people who are self-aware enough to know to even start that journey. Mm-hmm. And I know for 33 years I was not, at least 30-ish or whatever, and so you got to start looking at some of the things that you're doing and saying, maybe I'm not right, maybe I'm wrong, if you don't have that person in your life. But if you've got that person in your life, then you don't have to worry about that so much. If you've got somebody kind of checking you, if you've got, you got that, the buzzword, ding, 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 accountability team, if you've got at least one guy that can kind of reel you in when you can't kind of see your own BS.
So what do you say to guys that say, yeah, Justin, yeah, Eddie, yeah, Bennett, I get what you're saying. I understand it. But my wife is that person for me. My wife is that person that I can be honest with. She's my best friend. I can tell her anything. Like, me personally, my wife is all those things to me. She is my best friend. She is my confidant. We are honest with each other. But there's something that the relationship that I have with Bennett is way different. than it is with my wife for obvious reasons, but it's more of a necessary one in the cultivating of a better manhood for me. Does that make sense?
I lost you a little bit. Bennett, did you get it? Did you get all that?
No, I lost them too.
Oh, okay. So a lot of guys say to them, will tell us that they have that with their wife, that friendship, that relationship, right? And
yeah, because your wife is supposed to be your best friend to an extent, but
yeah. So if you
women can't satisfy all of our needs, and that's just the bottom line.
But if you got a guy that has a really good relationship with his wife, is there still a need to have that male counterpart, that male bonding or male relationship that we're discussing?
I think so.
To me, the easy, drastic answer is when your wife leaves you and says, "You've been doing X for 3 years and you were such an idiot you didn't know." If you have to have a guy in your life, Bennett was talking about this before, you have to have a guy in your life that can see that, because we can't see it. A lot of this was for me came out of when my first 3.5, 4 years of marriage. I was lying to myself about everything and how I was treating my wife and the toxicity that we had accepted in our relationship. And when we left Germany after our first active duty tour, she wanted a divorce. She wanted separation. So we separated for just a short time. But during that initial time, I was still lying to myself. And I was like, I didn't know it was that bad. I don't know what I did. I told my family, I don't know what I did. It wasn't that bad, yada, yada, yada. But because I didn't see it, and it literally took me, I'm still learning stuff about myself during that time. The big stuff is I've discovered so far, but I'm still kind of uncovering little pieces of that first, 5 years of my marriage, to where I was just a complete idiot, blind to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And there could have, hopefully, somebody, if they would have been on that level, like Bennett was talking about earlier, would have said, it's not cool if you call your wife a bitch. Like, you can't just justify
you
that.
Just can't do that, because
how she's acting.
That's what boys do.
Mm-hmm.
Men don't do shit like that. I mean, it's
right.
It's a guy. You have men in your life that challenge you when you're in pain, but you're denying it. You've got to have guys that are there to hold you accountable to your commitments, because you're the one that makes these commitments, right? When you get married and you say that vow, you're making a commitment to be a better husband, to be a better father when you have kids. Again, it's men who will risk their relationships with you in order to be honest and hold you accountable. That's what you have to have. And guess what? Your wife will never do that.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't want to hurt your feelings, or it's too hard, frankly, for her to do it. So you've got to have these men or man or whoever in your life to call you on your shit. It's the best way that I can.
It's basically what I'm hearing you say, Bennett, is it's not your wife's job. It's not your wife's job.
No, not at all.
It's not your wife's job to hold you responsible to be the man you should be, right?
No.
Bingo.
No, and really, do you want your wife sitting there needling you about, dude, that's not what men do. Are you kidding me?
Right.
That's the last thing you want.
And how many guys out there are doing that? They have a mother-son relationship with their wife, and
absolutely, because they never grew up.
Yeah.
So they're still little boys. So they literally are looking to be coddled dummies, and they look to their wives to do that. That's not what she is there for, folks.
Mm-hmm.
She's not there to wait on you. She's not there she's there to partner with you and take care of you in her way, and you vice versa. You're a team. It's there's no I in team, right? I mean, this is something we learned. We're not all veterans here, but a lot of us are, is that you signed up as a team. I don't understand the people that have like separate this and separate that. It's like, this is either way. I don't want to get off on that tangent too. So it really comes down to that, is that
well,
there's,
it's like this, right? I mean, how many times, Bennett, have you and I had a conversation, and I've shared some struggles that I'm having, say, with in my relationship with my wife, and and you know, I kind of come at you with a little bit of a whiny, complainy kind of, you know, poor, pitiful me kind of, but
Right.
but which is fine. You listened to me. You listened to everything I said, but you didn't take my side. You said, well, what about, you know, and you really kind of put me in check and said, well, have you considered this, or have you thought about that? And to be honest, I didn't think about that, or I didn't consider whatever it was. And it really made me think like, oh, maybe, okay. And so just by me having the ability and let's use the word again, the safe space and the relationship and the open, candid conversation and relationship that you and I have built over these last couple of years, because I'm able to vent, or whatever term you want to use for that, it allowed me to express my feelings, even though it was a little bit of whiny, crying, a little bit of a poor me kind of a thing, but allowed me to talk through those emotions, to talk through my frustrations and my feelings. And then I got your take on it from another man's perspective. And you were even, in a lot of cases, more on my wife's side than even on mine. But at least, but you know what? I was able to get that out of my system, because the alternative would have been me trying to have that conversation with my wife, and we've all tried that, and we all know how well that goes, right?
No, it's horrible, because if you haven't learned by now, men, when you lose, you lose, and when she loses, you lose too. Right. So you can be right, you can try to be right all that you want, but you're still going to lose.
Yeah,
doesn't matter if you're right. And the last thing that I want to put into this whole interjection thing is straight up, when it comes to listening, men don't know how to freaking listen. They just don't. We're sitting there trying to devise a plan on like, how the hell am I going to make this better? How am I going to make her feel like, or how am I going to get her to shut up? What can I say to her that's going to make her be quiet? When all a man needs to do really is, even if she's bitching about you, I guarantee you, it's not really about you at the core of it. You might think it's you, but don't get defensive. Just shut up, sit there and listen.
Except for me. Sometimes it is me. Probably not
right,
you guys.
Right. But you know what I'm saying though? Sit there and let her vent. Let her tell her story, and then say, oh, I completely understand that. Don't try and fix it. Don't be like, oh, what do I need to do to fix it? She doesn't need you to fix all of her problems.
Right.
And as soon as you stop doing that shit, she will respect you for it. Trust me.
Yeah.
So
I promise you.
I'm going to piggyback off that, because that's another reason that guys need to be talking about this stuff with other guys. It took me years to understand that every single guy is screwing up his marriage by trying to fix his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I thought it was just me.
Fix her problems. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not even her. Fixing her problems.
Sorry, I misspoke. You're correct. Fixing, yes. Being the problem solver, all that good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or you know, when she's, I thought it was just me for several years.
Right.
And then you start talking about it and you're like, oh, hold on. That happens in your house too? Mm-hmm. And yours, and yours, and yours. Yeah, it's a universal thing. So some of it comes out just by getting it out. Some of it, you start growing. That's what you do.
Yeah.
You start understanding things. You start understanding relationships and people and women and men. And it's growth is what it is, you know?
Yeah, and you're so mad at your wife, but you don't know. You don't have a clue why.
Right. Yep.
Right?
That's right.
It's because you're not really mad at her. And that's what it comes down to, is more than likely you're just mad at circumstance, or you're even mad at yourself and you're just looking for somebody to blame it on.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, I'm telling you, I shit you not, take a look in the mirror. When you're that angry, look into your own eyes in the mirror and really analyze it and be like, what am I really mad at? And I can guarantee you that a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times it's you. It's either the way that you reacted to something, it's the way that you were, and it's embarrassing, and it's everything else to you.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't even matter to anyone else, except for the fact that you just flew off the handle at your wife and your kids and your loved ones and the people that are closest to you, because they bear the brunt of your shit.
Well, that's a great segue into this next piece. Justin, earlier today in the group, you had done, you wrote a post and then followed it up with a Facebook Live. But it was this idea of the question that you posed: are you igniter or are you a diffuser? Can you kind of go into that a little bit and describe what that means and kind of why pose that question to the group?
Yeah, so a lot of the questions I pose are things I've already posed to myself, either usually in the previous 24 hours or whatever. And so I really throw them out for the other guys to kind of explore, themselves as I have been. And that's one of the things I've been thinking about myself. I've been driving about an hour and a half to work this week. So, I get to churn on some of these extra deep thoughts. And one of the things I've thought about is I am naturally a diffuser. I'm sorry, an igniter. I'm naturally an igniter. So my whole chemical makeup, when there's conflict, I fire up. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to do it. Confrontation, no problem. So that's my natural bend. And I've had to work very hard at in the public. I can very easily become a diffuser, but a lot of times we show our worst self at home. And even up until last night, I'm blowing up. I'm going off the handle at my kids sometimes when I could have been the diffuser. So, I'm that accelerant on the fire, and that's not the person that I want to be. And there is some of it where I struggle with, you kind of just struggle between that hard hand discipline that's sometimes needed, and then also being, that diffuser, that man, that father that kind of fosters the emotions and tries to figure out what's really going on. But what I really wanted people to be aware of, and I put the post up there earlier, and I knew that you're going to get, these guys are smart guys. And so a lot of them will do two things. They will avoid the question when I'm specifically asking about them personally. They already know the right answer. So they're going to give me the right answer, which I get it. We all get that. So are you an igniter or a diffuser? And a lot of them will say, well, I'm both. I'm both when I need to be. And they probably are 95% of the time. But you need to really know what your natural bend is toward. Do you avoid conflict? Do you not kind of charge into that? Or are you the person that when you see conflict or you see something popping off, you kind of ignite that flame? And you need to know that because you have to be cautious of which way you're going to act inappropriately, and to be able, the easy one is for like me, if I'm an igniter, to blow a situation up and go real bad. But also if you are naturally avoid conflict, then that's not always good either, because you need to handle your problems. You need to handle your business. You need to stand up for your family and your friends, and you need to do the appropriate thing.
I'm like a straight up pump oxygen onto the flames guy.
There you go.
Like
I would have not guessed that.
I'm not even an igniter. Like I'm like a nuke. I'm like an accelerator that's not even like there's no holding me down, bro. I've learned a lot, because the biggest virtue that you can learn is patience by far and wide, especially when you're the father of 4 girls.
Oh my God.
Wow. So yeah, but I'm like a blowtorch, baby. I'll fire it all up. Like when I get fired up, sometimes there's no coming back. So that's what I really focus on, not getting there, because if I go too far, it's over. It's over.
But I think the point that you made, Justin, is an incredible one. It's this self-actualization of understanding oneself, understanding what your default or natural tendencies are. Everyone has a natural state, right? Here's a perfect example. I don't know if it's from 10 years of the Army, most of which were as an NCO, and I had many, many soldiers that really tried me, and I was a straight-up asshole when I was in the Army. And like I said, I don't know if it was my experience in the Army that did it, but my natural default face, like if I'm just sitting there not thinking about anything, my natural expression on my face is one of pissed off, right? Everyone's like, what's the matter with you? I'm like, nothing. Like, seriously, not like, why you even ask, like, what did I? And they're like, no, it's just a look on your face. My natural resting default face is one of a very pissed off in nature. But I reckon,
me too.
But I know that about myself. And so I have to consciously address that, especially when I'm at work and I'm, cranking out the computer and somebody stops at my desk and asks me a question. As soon as I turn away from my computer, I know that if I don't address that, my natural state, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to I'm going to give them a face that I don't mean. The face is of an angry, what the hell do you want look. And so I have to adjust myself, but it takes effort, right? And I think understanding that all those little idiosyncrasies about ourselves is incredibly important. Getting to know, I think the most important lessons in life we can learn are the ones about ourselves. The more we understand ourselves and the more we understand what our natural defaults are, the better we can communicate the way we actually feel to people. And that has a lot to do with character, because in my opinion, I don't think character is something that is just an automatic default. I think it's something that we all have to work on all the time, every day. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me point out one more thing about the self-awareness bit. When I first started the group, one of the first questions, and I will always remember this, is I put in the group is, what is your blind spot? And which I think is huge for men. We have to know our blind spots. And a whole bunch of guys were like, nope, I don't have one. Nope. And I know these are good dudes. Like, these are guys of high integrity, especially the guys that came in the beginning where the guys were like, yeah, I want to talk about being a good guy. You know, so those are really high top-notch guys, but everybody's got a blind spot, you know, like the politician who gets hit in like this huge corruption scandal. You know, the day before he got in trouble, he said, I don't have a blind spot. You know, the pastor who gets caught up in a hooker scandal, you know, right before he got involved with that hooker, he said, I don't have a blind spot. We all have something that we have to guard, you know, and when I saw that, I thought, man, guys, you got to have something. Like, everybody's susceptible. We all have our thing, at least one of those things. Some of us got a bunch of them, you know, so those are just the kind of things that I like to spur up, because I'm always asking myself these questions. So I throw them out there, and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and like, I interview a lot of people, not necessarily meaning for like podcasting and whatnot, but like for possible jobs and practicing interviews and whatnot. And my favorite question goes right along with that, Justin. What is your biggest weakness? And if you can't be real with that and be real with that answer,
I care too much.
You need to deep.
Yeah.
You need to seriously look a lot deeper than you are, because you all have weaknesses.
Yeah,
every
absolutely.
damn one of us does, and multiple. It's not like just one. Like, oh, I don't do windows, or I don't wash the dishes good enough.
I only speak one language.
Some bullshit like that, right? Exactly. Stuff that really matters, though, right?
Right.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So you got to get real with yourself. I mean, what do we always talk about, Eddie? Self-assessment's one of the biggest. Self-assessment's one of the biggest skills to learn as well.
Yep. And sometimes
I say patience is the best virtue, but self-assessment is one of the best skills.
And that's another reason why it's so important to have, you know, in the military, we all had battle buddies, and in the outside of the military, you need a battle buddy as well, because sometimes it's important. You have to know your blind spot. You have to know your weakness. You have to know things that you struggle with. And sometimes those aren't things you can discover on your own. You need people. I need Bennett in my life to be able to point those things out to me. And when he does, in my everyone's initial reaction right off the bat is very defensive. Oh, that's bullshit. You don't know what you're talking about, right? And everybody immediately defaults to the defense because that's natural. But if you allow yourself that moment to be defensive, and then if you've got a high enough EQ, I don't know how much you guys talk about EQ versus IQ on the show, but if your EQ is in tune, your emotional quotient, then what you can do is you can internalize that once you've gotten over that defensive posture, and you can say, okay, let me chew on that for a minute, and let me ask the hard question. How much of that is really true? And really internalize it. And that's where real growth comes in. And it's hard, man, because growth, I mean, the term growing pains exists for a reason, because it is painful to grow. But you need people in your life to be honest enough to be able to help you through those moments of growth. I have a question that somebody, do you want to chime in there? And then I've got a question that somebody sent in.
One thing I wanted to say is the other thing that you and I have found, and we find this with other people and other team members that we have, is we don't really look for like-minded people. We look for like-hearted people.
Right. Big difference.
I love that.
Because
That's a tweetable moment right there. Do we need to pause
man.
for a second?
That might be it. You might want to put that on a t-shirt and shit. So I'm just saying.
Good night, folks. Peace out.
Good night. Put it on your mug tomorrow. That's fine.
That was good though.
So,
I like that.
So either way, it's really about finding like-hearted people, not like-minded, because if you are hanging out with a whole bunch of people that think the same way, what's the freaking point? What's the point? Because none of you are going to challenge anybody about anything. Mm-hmm. So it's really about finding like-hearted people with the same values.
You may not always agree, right?
Hell no. I mean, I know why you and I don't.
Right.
And I know we don't with Dwayne and Kevin and all of them. Andrew, we don't agree all the time, but at least we know that, our hearts are in the right places. And that's what it is, because it's that whole adage too, is you are the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Mm-hmm. And if you want to spend your time with people that are exactly like you, there's no growth in that whatsoever.
That's right.
And that's part of the vision for Code of Character. When I started this whole thing out, I found that most of the people that were talking about this kind of stuff were largely religiously affiliated. And it was during the presidential election, and there was so much just combat between different political people. And, we got some race issues and we got religious, and I thought there's enough men with common values. There's a core set of values that'll cross all religious spectrum, all race spectrum, all political spectrum. Let's start with those core values, and then let's go from there. And let's just get guys going in that direction, because I do believe it. There's a lot of fringe topics that get us combative with each other and fighting with each other. And the core stuff we agree on. Mm-hmm. And we can have those conversations.
I mean, you can take one of the most liberal people in the world and take one of the most conservative people in the world, and let's just say they go to the same church. I guarantee you 90% of their values are exactly the same.
Right.
And so why don't we focus on that 90% versus the 10? Mm-hmm. Like, seriously? And that's the problem, is that people prey on that. Mm-hmm. To divide people. They prey on it.
Well, that's where the news is, right? We've talked about this many times. It's
all sexy. That 10% is sexy.
Yeah, right.
That's what it is.
Let's not get started on the news. That's a whole nother.
No, I know.
Whole nother.
That's like a 10 episode series. But anyway.
All right, so I got a question from Samuel, and I apologize, Samuel. There's no way I can pronounce your last name, brother, so I'm not even going to try. But he says, earlier in the show, Justin mentioned about going to the youth groups to share your message. What do you think about doing like a Big Brother program for veterans, like having something set up in transition offices? So almost like assigning battle buddies for those that are transitioning out of the military in order to kind of help share that message, I believe is kind of where he's going with the question.
Well, I think that sounds very similar to the organization you guys clued me into a couple weeks ago. Is it Veterati?
Yeah, Veterati.
It really sounds like a lot what they're doing is setting up mentors with people coming out of the military. I think that what struck me about you guys so much was that there's not a lot of real stuff going on for military transitioning out. And that was really not eloquent at all, but there's just not. And I mean real, like capital real, like it's this flowery thing, like
it's all fluff.
It's all fluff, man. It's like, on every holiday, we wave the flag real high, and you can't ever say anything bad about America. But when you get out, we're really just gonna forget about you. But when it comes around for your service like a million times. But you guys are talking about doing real stuff, talking about providing real services, resumes, professional building, and plug to Veterati. It sounds like that's what they're doing. You guys are mentors on the program, right?
Yeah.
So any of that kind of stuff is awesome.
Veterati's great. Veterati is fantastic, and but it's funny that you should say something, because Eddie and I actually talked about doing something earlier today, but we're not going to go deep into it. It's just a matter of the program needs to get developed. There are some programs out there that are really good, but at the end of the day, something needs to get instituted across the board. And I don't have the answers, but I think pretty soon we will.
Yeah, man.
I think, yeah. So I think that Eddie and I are headed in a direction that's going to really, and we're going to pull almost every veteran that we can into the fold. And yeah, so that's something that we can talk about then. I see your comment that you have the floor plan for one. So yeah, get in touch. Our contact info's out there, and I'm open to talk to anybody. So
yeah, I think we're going to wrap things up here. I'm not even entirely sure how long we've been on. This thing doesn't have like a timer.
No.
Hold on, let me see.
Yep.
Well, we've been recording for an hour and 2 minutes, but we caught some audio before we actually went live, which is cool. So, folks, if you want to get the full rendition of the show, you'll have to check it out on the Change Your POV podcast network when the show goes live, and of course we'll share that with everybody in the group when it does go live. But you don't have to wait till then. You can go and check out some really cool shows that are up and running right now. Like I said, we got multiple shows on the podcast network. So if you're into motivation, we got Motivation Mondays. They're quick 3-minute motivation. What we do is we pick a quote that we really like, and we talk about what that quote means to us. So we break it down. And then Tuesday's show is Headspace and Timing, which is brought to you by Dwayne France, who is
one of the best.
Yeah, man. Licensed.
I always say it.
22-year Army veteran, served multiple deployments, and he's now a licensed clinical mental health
counselor.
There you go. And he works. That's what he
Yes.
does. That's what he does full time. And he is trying to break the stigma around veteran mental health. And then Wednesday, of course, I think you already mentioned Jeff Adamick, who was our resident soft guy, special operations, and his show is Changing Hearts and Minds, and he really gets into some, I wouldn't say controversial topics, but he definitely peels back the onion when it comes to certain things that you'll want to check out and kind of listen to. And then Thursday's show, that hasn't come out yet. We've got our buddy that just had a baby, so his show is not going to come live until the end of the year. And then we got Attack Friday, which is the show that Bennett and I do. And Attack, of course, is an acronym that stands for Actionable Tips, Tricks, and Coachable Knowledge. And that's where we bring on great guests like Nick Rippling here, who is in this group, and some others, and we interview them about. That's where you're going to be able to find this show with Justin. And then on Saturday, we have this very unique, we don't put out very many episodes, but we call it Behind the Curtain. You'll get an insider's look into kind of our lives, all the hosts of the show and our families, and kind of different kind of things to get to know us a little bit better. And then Sunday's show is Behind the Curtain. And
nope.
I'm sorry, Remove Before Flight. I said it twice. Remove Before Flight on Sundays is Kevin's show, and he talks about, he's bringing on some incredible guests to talk about entrepreneurship, and then he also talks about media techniques, marketing and media, social media, website design, all kinds of. He
can teach you, Justin, about SEO.
He can teach you about SEO, Justin. So when somebody Googles your name, they won't find a pink leotard, teal hair girl or a hockey player. They'll actually have some sexy.
All about
picture.
the hockey.
So that's kind of our show. So if you want something to listen to, if you are a podcast listener, then I encourage you to go and check that out. Of course, don't forget about the Code of Character podcast. And Justin's just starting out on his journey, and I hope he continues. I love the guests that he's had on so far. It's just, did this feel like a podcast interview to you, Justin?
It feels like one of your podcast interviews. I loved it.
Yeah, but didn't feel like an interview at all. We called it an interview.
No, it feels like we're hanging out having fun. That's why I was like,
that's the point.
As soon as I heard your podcast, I'm like, I got to get with these guys, man. This is fun.
That's what we do.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I loved it, man.
Who was your
Thank
first
you so
guest,
much.
Justin?
My first guest was Ryan Mickler.
Yeah, the man.
Yeah.
The beard. The man, the beard.
The beard.
Yeah, so far I'm trying to get guests that can just run with it. And I can just kind of throw them a bone every once in a while, man. So I've had some great guests so far.
You're like, okay, you just talk, and I'll tell you when it's over. Go.
That's it, man. That's it.
Give us your links, Ryan.
Yeah. These guys got a lot to say, so I'm a student.
Very cool. So, where can now? This is for the benefit of the Change Your POV listeners, Justin. Where can people find more about you, or where can they go to link up with you and check out what you got going on?
So it's all about Code of Character. www.codeofcharacter.com. We got a blog there, a weekly blog there. We have a Facebook group, obviously closed Facebook group. 3,000 guys there, working on character, building their character, helping each other grow. All that good stuff. That's facebook.com/group/Code of Character. And we got the podcast Code of Character. Look it up on iTunes, Stitcher, and that's what we're doing, man. Spread the message.
If you go to Google, though, make sure you type it all in.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. And then type please at the end. Please.
Oh, shit. We got to bust balls, man.
Be nice to Google.
We love you.
Google. I appreciate it, guys. This is an honor, man. You guys are awesome. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So I do have to say before we close, there was a question in here. One of the guys that's live watching to this right now says, hold on, let me see if I can find it really quick. Right here, Justin Greg wants to know, how often are you guys doing these live forums? Well, that's a very good question, Justin, that you're going to have to ask Justin and let him determine that.
Well, I guess if Eddie and Bennett want to set it up for me like they did tonight, we'll do this once a week, twice a week, maybe 3. I don't know. Now, this is a one-time gig for now. Hopefully, we'll get some other stuff rolling. We got some stuff down the road that we're trying to do. This is early for me. You know, I'm just kind of. I think I described it to you, Eddie, earlier as just feeling my way through the dark through all this stuff.
Yeah,
so
man.
we're all learning. We're all learning together, man.
That's it. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate all of the contributing comments and questions on the Facebook Live side. And hey, this show will exist forever on the Code of Character Facebook group. So be sure to share it out to all your friends and family, get them involved and engaged in the conversation. And it's all about holding ourselves and each other accountable. And I really liked our conversation, Justin. Thanks for coming on the show. I do appreciate it.
Thanks so much, guys.
And folks, you can find all of the show notes for this episode by heading over to changeyourpov.com. Never miss an episode. Hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice. We have a lot more great content headed your way. And hey, if you want to come be part of our community at Change Your POV Squad Facebook group, we would love to see you there. All right, folks, until next time. All right, that closes out the podcast side of things. And I don't know if you wanted to say something special to your audience or not.
Oh, thanks for tuning in. Code of Character, you guys are great. Keep it up. You're awesome.
You're awesome.
Let us know what you think of the show. Leave us some comments.
Go subscribe to the Change Your POV podcast. Check out their stuff. They got a lot of cool stuff. A lot of good stuff going on. Their website will take you a little while to navigate. There's so much content out there.
There is, and I deleted a bunch. So
yeah, scary shit too.
All right, man. Thanks, brother.